more answers than you know.
Each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker. And there was no sexual assault. County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
All right, everybody, hello and welcome or welcome back to What's the Obsession live stream and chat. In this evening, we are going to be talking about the case in Idaho, the case that is now being fought in a court of law for the tragedy that took the lives, so sadly, of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. And on this channel, our goal is to support finding justice for those victims and greater peace for those families. So welcome, everybody. I am so super glad you are here. Just really quick before we get going, I do want to acknowledge I did have a live stream scheduled on Friday night, and I know some of you were here. I'm going to be totally honest, guys. I had a wicked long week. I fell asleep, and I was just like out until the next morning. I am really just so sorry. I can't even remember ever doing that before. So I really do very much apologize. My son's 15th birthday was last week. We had some celebrations this weekend and things like that. So, you know, life just catches up with you every now and then, but I have some great stuff for you on this case and others. I've been doing a lot of researching and submerging myself in everything Delphi, which I've got to say, and I'm sure y'all know, is a little bit creepy, right? I do want to talk about some Delphi, topics coming up. I just want to let you know, so it's Wednesday right now, October 25th. So this Friday, October 27th, we're going to do it's sort of a Chris Watts related paranormal special where I'm going to share with you my experiences of what I truly believe is paranormal as related to the Chris Watts case when I was working on it very intently. There's one story I haven't even shared on YouTube yet. So if you kind of heard the stories, there is a little more that I have decided I'm going to share. And there's also some others that are coming up to share their stories. It's sort of in the spirit of spirits for Halloween that's up and coming. So be looking out for that. I don't have the thumbnail up for it yet, but it is going to be this coming Friday evening at 9:30 Eastern time. So thank you so much for being here, moderators, subscribers, members. If you're new, come on in. I am so glad you're here. I miss you guys so very much. It's just been so long. And I'm going to say hi to a couple people. Hi, Spicy Housewife. If you want to hear the hellos, I would suggest going forward. If you're watching the replay, about 4 minutes, it's going to get you past them. I get it. Time is precious, and I respect your time. Hi, Laura Williams. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Ara. Thank you for being you. Love you, girl. Hi, Edward. How's it going? DC Primetime. I'm so happy you're here. I saw you last night. I was just like perusing YouTube, and you were in someone said hi to you in their chat last night. It's the woman that used to do the Watts case. I don't remember her name. She was talking about Delphi, and I was like, DC, I just wanted to reach out and touch you. Hi, Pumpkin. How are you doing? Welcome. Nice to see you here. And let me just go up here a little bit. Angel D, how's it going? Aw, thank you. I'll let him know. He's going to be back in here in just a minute. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. I'm so sorry that I didn't let you know, and I appreciate your care. You guys are amazing. Hi, Red Sassy Fox 19. How are you doing? Hi, Donna Ayers. How's it going? So glad you're here too, Donna. I'm glad you caught alive. And let's see, Midge, you're precious. I just adore you, Midge. Thank you so much for being here and for all you do. Janice Coons, welcome. How are you doing? Let's see. Let me just go up a little more. And I don't think there's actually that many other people. Kevin, if you're still here, so glad you're here. You're the bomb. Thanks for being a good friend. Hi, Thomas McCarthy. Hope you're still here as well. And let's see here. Muck Boys, you still have a wrench. Is that cool with you? That was from a while back, but I'm happy to have you have a wrench. I just want to make sure you're good with it. Okay. All right. Hi, Serena Marks. How are you doing? Welcome. Hi, Alexis Alberts. How's it going? Nice to see you. Glad you guys are all here. I miss all you guys so much. And Kelly Watts. Yeah. So I just want to let you know that, yeah, Muck Boys, you know how to use the wrench. I trust you. Absolutely. Speaking of trust, I just want to put out just kind of a general, something, I'm just going to say something a little bit weird happened on this channel. Somebody that was, very close with this channel. And I just want to say this to you guys. Every now and then, like Ara has WhatsApp and she'll reach out to like the other moderators and I will ask her to please relay a message, something like that. And hi, Patrick Pepper, how are you doing? Awesome. So glad you're here. Hi, Janice Coons. I think I already said hi to you, but hi again. And I'll ask Ara, oh, hey, could you please tell the moderators this? But listen, I speak on my own behalf. If somebody ever, emails you or approaches you in any way saying that they're speaking on my behalf or the channel's behalf or one of, our prominent moderators' behalf, that's not the case. I can promise you that. And everybody, please just be careful, in all things online. And please don't think I'm talking to you like your kids. Everybody can get fooled. Let's all remember, all of us, to when you meet people online to, reserve your trust. We want to create relationships, but, just take care of yourself and don't ever entrust anyone with money. Okay. If you're doing like super chats or whatever directly to a channel, I know that some creators put up their PayPal and things like that, that's your choice, but just be really careful. All right. And that's all I have to say about that for now. And hi, Colleen. How are you doing? Hi, Kyle Cook. How are you doing? Patsy says, Kelly, did you have strange things happen and or shadows or something evil like following you? When I do Watts, I have things happen and others too. Yes, things like that. And I'm going to get into detail about that Friday night again at 9:30 Eastern. We'll start up that live stream. And I really had some seriously spooky, unbelievable things. I'm not a huge paranormal person, never really have been. I believe that there are things we certainly don't understand that are going on. I don't, I realize the feeble nature of myself and that I don't know everything and there are powers much greater than me, but I'm not one to really, assume something is paranormal or I have a little bit of skepticism, but the things that happened to me freaking blew my mind and I'm just going to share. Yeah. So it caused me to put a crucifix up in my house. I don't, I grew up Catholic, but since then I have different spiritual beliefs. I've never had like a crucifix up in my house. Well, I do now. So it's like that. Hi, Daria. How are you doing? Nice to see you. And again, we're going to talk about that on Friday evening. I'm just going to answer this one question because I do think this is important. It's very much about what I talk about all the time on the channel. Angel D says, do you think it's because they don't have true justice? Speaking of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and unborn baby Nico, and God rest their souls. I do think that there's something to that. I do believe that their souls are all at rest at this point, certainly. But I do think it's possible that, I think, we could talk about this forever, but I think when life ends, it's not just like, your energy stops ending. Any trace of you is gone. Your energy lingers. We each have a profound impact on those around us, on situations around us, and on our world, the world. And I don't think that just goes away. So I certainly don't profess to understand it all, but I think there's something to it. And DC Primetime, thank you so much for the 1999 super chat. Thank you. I really appreciate it, DC. DC says, just FYI, I respect you and believe you are a serious person. Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks for not being a complete fraud. I would never fraudulently anything, you guys. And that is just like, that means so much to me for you to say that. There's nothing more I could ask from you guys, and I'm honored to have your trust. So thank you so much. Oh, goodness. Thank you, DC, and you're wonderful. And thank you for all your support. Really, since this channel started, you are the bomb. Yeah, I hope they torment Chris every night because he certainly deserves it. Oh my gosh. Kyle Cook says, hi, Kelly. I am a newbie, but a true crime junkie. LOL. Awesome. Well, welcome, Kyle. How are you doing? Glad you're here. What are your favorite cases to follow, Kyle? I want to let you know I just put up a poll, and maybe you want to go vote on this on the community page. I'm just going to share with you what the result has been thus far, and then we will get going into the IDAHO case. Always stuff going on with that. Holy cow, what an not active, tightly gagged case. It's truly, truly unbelievable. So let's see. Let me just share this with y'all here. Oh, and pretty soon, guys, I want to have a little get together with just moderators. And so be looking out for that. I'm just trying to find a time that's good for everyone. I know it's hard to do that, but maybe we'll record our conversation. This is what I do like with my classes. So, if somebody misses it, they can catch back up. All right. Is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? It's one of them. Okay, here it is. So it's just a poll. I just put it up a short time ago, and it says, what are you most interested in for a live stream topics later this week? I just put that up tonight or like next week. Okay. It's your time to choose. So the options are IDAHO, Bryan Kohberger, the Delphi case, which I thought was going to get more votes, man. I'm really freaking into that case. Are you guys into Delphi? Like, will you tune in if we talk Delphi? Like, I didn't want to go back there, but I can't help it. And then Watt's case revisited. We've been doing that lately, and there is still a lot to talk about. And I do believe firmly that there are issues of justice that need to be revisited and need to be served. And that's my belief. And if I ever change that belief, I will. You guys will be the first to know. Don't expect it happening. So I thank you for those of you who respect that belief I have. It's certainly well-founded. I've been living and breathing this case for a while. Not unlike others, I know. And then sharing true crime or paranormal stories. That only got 11% vote, but we're doing that Friday night anyway, because again, it's going to be that kind of sort of Halloween theme little thing that's going on. Okay. Don't want to talk about Delphi until they get a new defense. Yeah. Wow. Hey, Satan's Rocktail, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Rocket All. Satan's Rocket All. Am I saying that right? I hope I am. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I hope I'm saying it right. Yeah, people have been burned in the YouTube community. So again, there was something weird that happened on this channel with somebody that was close to this channel. And I think I have taken an assessment of the damage that was done. And, certainly, I want everyone to be whole. I will always work for that. So if you've had something weird happen to you, whether it's related to this channel or not, I might be able to help you with that. I've helped with people getting free legal counsel and stuff like that. I'd be happy to help you if you feel you've been wrong. Please email me. I'm putting my email in the chat right now. WattsObsession@gmail.com. It's not Watts the Obsession, my email. It's just Watts Obsession. Wow, Muck Boys. Delphi's one case you never got into. Man, I think we could pull you in. I know. I was a late bloomer on that one too. Susan Morphew too. I've been following that too, but I have never covered any material on it. But I will definitely take a look into that. I know a lot of people are interested. And a good friend of mine, Kathleen Hewson, our favorite true crime author, comes on this channel sometime. I think that she's going to be doing some authoring having to do with the Morphew case. So I always like to be in sync with her. If you guys haven't checked out her books yet, Kathleen Hudson, she goes by both names as an author. She's written some amazing true crime books. Hi, Randy Hansen. How are you doing? Speaking of the spooky stuff happening to those still investigating the Watts case, maybe it's those evil spirits that MK worships. I have not eliminated that possibility. Let's see. Yes. Oh, hey, thanks, DC. Please hit the like. It helps actually to real creators who don't scam the masses. Thank you, DC. I appreciate you. Yeah, please do hit the like. Thank you very much. Thank you for reminding me. I always forget. I don't ask a lot of things, but if I should ask that more, because people then, I know when a creator asks me, hey, can you go hit the like? I'm like, oh yeah, right. And I do, right? So yeah, there's leaked photos in the Delphi case. I'm going to set up a live stream so we can talk about that pretty soon too, just within this channel community, just so we can all get on the same page. I have somebody, a friend of mine, who's doing some researching and it's just helping me with some stuff because it's a lot. This whole channel by myself, it's a lot. I need a little bit of help. A friend of mine who's super into true crime has been helping me out. She's awesome. She has done major research on it, and the things she's come up with are just crazy. Let's all get on the same page. Okay. Yeah, the leaked photos. God, can you imagine? Do you think that the Delphi leaked photos were intentionally leaked, or do you think they were truly leaked? This is kind of a stupid question. If you think they were intentionally leaked, if you know what I'm talking about, put a 1 in chat. I think I know what everyone's going to answer. I just want to make sure. I haven't really talked about that with anybody. Just want to make sure you're all thinking the same thing I am. Or maybe you're not, and then I want to know that too. Oh, wow. Muck Boys, I didn't know you visited the gravesite. So it's not that I'm a medium or anything like that. Well, you're in tune. I think that you're an intuitive person, Muck Boys, for sure. When I visited the gravesite of Shanann Watts and her babies, Bella, Cece, and onboard baby Nico, it was very peaceful. There weren't any weird feelings. Muck Boy says, just comments. That's so beautiful to know. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Oh, Kelly, that live when Kim was in chat being all sassy and you called her out. Oh, you're just laughing about it? Oh, God. Yeah, I just don't need some people. Regarding this Idaho case, and it's happened with the Watts case and other cases too, but I can certainly say the Idaho case, I think many of you can agree, certain people, channels, things have risen to the level of absurdity where I can no longer smile and nod. My polite self has to go bye-bye. Because sometimes we just need to call things like they are. Okay, your uncle lives. Oh, wow. Thank you, Angel D. Intentional by the associate. What do you mean by the associate? So y'all think that they were intentionally leaked? Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Let's see. And again, thank you so much for the super chat, DC Primetime, and the nice message. I very much appreciate it. I was just thinking about how much I appreciate you, girl. Okay. All right. So let's just take a look. I'm going to just share a couple things here. We'll get into some of the recent doc drops. Hopefully we can, boil down to what it is that they mean. And I also want to just talk about, what's going to be coming up at the eventual trial, which I certainly personally do think is definitely going to take place at this point. I know right now the defense is looking for the charges being dropped. We're going to be talking about that in a moment, and for the indictment that was handed down from the grand jury to be dismissed, which means in that case, legally, procedurally, I do believe that they would be convening yet another grand jury, or they would, well, I think actually more so. Please let me know if you have knowledge of this or a thought on this. This is something I was intending to research today. I'm going to be honest, I forgot to. Would they go back to the pre-trial hearing phase, or would they be convening another grand jury? I think if they did throw out that grand jury indictment, I think by default, I think what I learned in Idaho, I think that this is a decision that is up to state jurisdiction. They would be going back, they'd be going to pre-trial that would be the next step. I want to say by default, but I don't know if it's really by default. I'll look into that. I can find that pretty quick, I think. All right. Just see which one I want to be bringing in here. Okay, there it is. All right. Okay, so this is from Court TV. This is from 2 days ago. We're going to be looking at some things that were just from today, a few minutes ago, a few hours ago. But this is certainly very current as far as issues surrounding Kohberger being back in court. Oh, tomorrow, Bryan Kohberger is going to be in court. He has 2 court appearances, in case anybody is a little confused about this. Hi, Utter. Great to see you. So glad you're here. Hi, Bell Moon. Welcome. How are you doing? There is a morning court hearing that is secretive. It is sealed. It is closed to the public, which, you know, at this point in time, that is, from what I understand, just from, you know, as I'm watching this and, you know, I'm having reactive thoughts to myself, this is not normal at this point in the pretrial proceedings. I don't know how you feel, but also then when I turn to legal experts who certainly know a lot more than I do, what I believe that they are saying as well is this is not normal for hearings to still be so secretive at this point in the game, consistently so secretive. And then there is also an afternoon court appearance tomorrow that is going to be open to, you know, cameras and the media to the degree that it is. So we'll be learning a little bit about that tomorrow, and we can talk a little more about that in a bit. I don't want to get redundant in what might be said in these videos though, so I'm going to write down a note.
On November 13th, 2022, at around 4 a.m., 4 college students were brutally murdered. Each would soon become household names, known for their deaths, but remembered for their lives. Kaylee Gonsalves, she was 21 and born in Concord, California. Her family describes her as sociable, strong, and a hard worker.
Kaylee was our middle child out of 5. She was always competitive. She was smack dab middle, so Steven and Olivia were a little bit older. Andre and Aubrey were a little bit younger, so she kind of had to figure out where to fit in, and she definitely did.
Maddie Mogan, also 21, was best friends with Kaylee.
This is going to be current. There's just a little bit of a, you know, a respectful and a commemorative, you know, introduction that they're doing here. It just lasts like another, not even minute.
Since childhood. Maddie's family says she was known for her offbeat humor and her ability to make others laugh and smile.
She was so great. She lit up every room she'd come in, and she was just so positive and fun, and we love her and miss her so much.
20-year-old Xana Cornoto grew up in Idaho and was a talented gymnast as a child. In high school, she played volleyball, track, and soccer. Xana was going to school for marketing.
Xana was such a light in my life and so many others, and she knew and understood me more than anyone. Losing her is the hardest thing I've ever had to go through, and it has left me heartbroken.
20-year-old Ethan Chapin loved sports and country music. He was Xana's boyfriend, a triplet who was incredibly close to his family.
We are eternally grateful that we spent so much time with him. And I want to remind you that that's the most important message that we have for you and your families, is to make sure that you spend as much time as possible with those people, because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
Amazingly tragic story, tragic case, but it's going to be a trial. They're going to fight it. They want these charges dismissed. Motion to dismiss October 26th, which is next Thursday, in the case of the Idaho students who were murdered. We'll see what happens there. But there's more things to talk about. First, let's take a look at the accused killer back inside the courtroom. Here he is. once again, walking in, you know, you look at him, we all know what he's accused of, so you kind of look at him a little differently. But I think everything we learned about him is that there was always something wrong with him, always something a little odd, you know, not just like a regular guy. There was something a little different. We heard statements from students who had him in school out west in Washington State, and it's bizarre. So how about his family? Where's his family in all of this? Well, we really haven't heard from his immediate family, but the U.S. Sun spoke to the accused killer's alleged aunt because, you know, she was anonymous. She didn't give a name or anything. And this is what the alleged aunt told the U.S. Sun. She said her heart goes out to the victims' families, but she also feels the accused killer was not well and had battled for years with mental health problems. To me, he was humble and quiet. I didn't see any violence in him. But if you're not on the right medication, you can be triggered. I think he may have snapped. I don't have an answer for why he was depressed. I guarantee he had a wonderful childhood. Michael, his dad, is a wonderful man. He was a janitor, and his wife is a beautiful woman. She's a teacher, and they worked at the same school. She questions on how she feels he will cope if he gets life behind bars. His aunt shook her head and replied, I think he may try to kill himself. So definitely there's something off about him, but that's not going to be the defense. There's no defense like that. It's an alibi defense that he wasn't there. He was out for a drive by himself all night. Let's bring back in our think tank, Bernardo Villalona, Sue Ann Robinson, Ben Chu. Ben, they've got the motion to dismiss. I don't expect it to be successful, but it might give us a sneak preview of what some of the arguments will be at the trial. But from what we've heard, it seems like the basis of this defense case is that he has an alibi. And his alibi is something like he was out all night driving around by himself. That kind of sounds like what the killer did.
Yeah, it's not the strongest alibi we've ever heard, is it?
No, not even close. Bernard, the alibi sounds like it's a piece of evidence for the prosecution.
Exactly. So, Vinny, I don't think that that's the defense that they're going to put forward, an alibi. I think what they're going to put forward is to say that the prosecution hasn't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Because think about it, Vinny, if they're going to put a defense of an alibi that he was somewhere else, who are they going to put on the stand to testify about that? Is Bryan Kohberger the only person in a position to say that he was out driving all night? And does that make him and put him in a positive light? It doesn't. So I think they're just going to keep it to that the prosecution hasn't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, I have a theory I want to share with you, and it's actually a little more than a theory because I was going back from, what we know of the evidence that's been put forth or testimonies that are proffered or whatever the case may be, as far as any kind of evidence that has been, collected and then shared between the prosecution and defense. The alibi, Bryan Kohberger's so-called alibi, I have a habit of driving around late at night. I was driving around late at night, but not near 1122 King Road. I think that the timing and the content of that alibi were a result of two things. And I'm going to tie it in because I want to talk a little bit about Bethany Funke. And what we all know and what I know about Bethany Funke and what we're going to see from her at trial. And, thank you for some of your kind and not so kind comments about that. But, I'm going to stick to my guns on this one, and we're going to see how things play out. Anyway, the defense could not put forth an alibi before they knew what Bethany Funke was going to testify to at the trial, if they knew they were heading for a trial. So that is why the alibi took so long, was just dragging ass. Everyone's like, where is Bryan Kohberger's alibi? I don't know how many conversations we all had. Like, if I was innocent of doing this, I would be screaming from the rooftops, I did not do it, and here's why, and here's my alibi, and, any kind of proof you could put forth that you didn't do that. I mean, my God, any normal human being, any not normal human being who is not capable of doing what, this perpetrator did, would there would be no hesitation about putting forth an alibi or putting forth any information that disconnected them to that horrible crime, because my God, it's just like, Satan's work here on earth. So the defense couldn't put forth an alibi until they kind of cleared their path as far as knowing in their minds what Bethany Funke was going to be testifying to in the upcoming trial. That is why, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, but that is why they had that whole, dog and pony show about, compelling Bethany Funke's testimony at the pre-trial hearing, which, solicited the motion to quash from Bethany Funke and her attorneys, and all of that happened. Obviously, that all became moot because rather than going to the pre-trial hearing procedurally, they convened a grand jury, which handed down the indictment that Bryan Kohberger's attorneys are desperately trying to have thrown out right now, and rightfully so. This is a death penalty case. I believe they should be doing everything they possibly can do. It is their job to do everything that they can do, within the constraints of ethical legal practice to try to get him off and save his life. So there's no shade that I'm throwing on that. But they had to somehow solicit, some indication from Bethany Funke of what she was going to be testifying to, because all along from day one until today, in my opinion, Bethany Funke is the great wild card. It's the great wild horse. It's the wild whatever that the defense so desperately wants to tame and get their, minds around and get their arms around, to hold it down. So I think that it is going to be something that has to do with Bethany Funke, what she testifies to, what she knows, what she saw, that when we way down the road are listening to the post-trial interviews that no doubt some jurors will grant media sources, I feel so certain that they're going to be saying, it was Bethany Funke when she said this, given what we know from everyone else or from Dylan Mortensen or from the evidence, she said this, and that just did it for me. That was it. I was done. That's when I knew he was guilty. If it goes that way, I'm playing out a scenario here, right? So, the other thing, as far as Bryan Kohberger having to say my alibi is like the lamest thing I can possibly present as an alibi, that I was driving around in the middle of the night on that night, right around that time, because I apparently do it all the time. I go for long drives in the middle of nowhere on a super cold night, because I believe that they put forth that alibi right around the time when the defense found out about the plethora of evidence that was going to be produced at trial as a result of the telemetry data that, yes, was indeed collected from Bryan Kohberger's 2015 Hyundai Elantra. Now, I uploaded a video on this topic. It's one of my last uploads, and I know it was a little while ago, and sorry, I'm back. Just every now and then I go through these phases where I have to attend to my kid, my career job, all that stuff. Just had one of those. Okay, it was 9 days ago. And I don't really feel like people understand the gravity of this. I'm going to bring this information into the stream a little bit because it is so important and it is critical to any conversation that moves forward about the Bryan Kohberger trial proceedings from this point. Can't get around it. I know some people would like to, but you can't.
The FBI telemetry report.
And remembers it's every move. When you shift gears, when you turn, when you slow down, when you speed up. Telemetry. Y'all remember the Murdaugh case not so long ago?
Vehicle engineer from the FBI out of Washington, D.C. He's the one that took the telemetry unit out of Alex Murdaugh's Suburban. The telemetry data. We have their cell phone extractions here. We also have the FBI telemetry report. Telemetry data just showing a system startup, the telemetry system.
On which the Suburban's underway?
That is correct. According to the telemetry, that is consistent with the data.
All right.
Telemetry.
We have some additional telemetry consistent with him. We have a bunch of green and blue boxes. Is this more telemetry data? And again, we'll go through the timeline of the bit, but this is generally consistent with some of the telemetry data that Fafosky did.
You get in your car, you kind of hear that noise before you started up the telemetry.
Below that, we have a orange and blue box. What does that represent?
So this is going to be from the FBI telemetry data.
Some believe, and I am one of them, that the telemetry data was one of the key critical pieces of evidence that proved Alec Murdaugh's guilt in that trial. It's hard to get away with a lie about what you're doing and where you're going when you're in your car and a computer in your car is recording.
It would show vehicle going into drive or park, moving, propulsion, that kind of stuff.
I've been so interested in learning the possible information that we are going to be getting from Bryan Kohberger's car ever since, well, we knew that Bryan Kohberger was the suspect. And I've been wanting to talk about this in a video. And I chose to make this video right now because just a few days ago, Nancy Grace had this guy on her show.
A mobile device forensic expert, Lee Reber. Now listen to this. He's the author of Mobile Forensic Investigations.
And they made a point of answering a question I've wanted to know for a long time. I've talked about it a few times during live streams. Maybe you were listening, but here it is.
You stated that you knew for a fact the 2000 Elantra, all the way back to 2011. 2011 has the nav system, navigation system.
Okay, so this expert on Nancy Grace, and this is consistent with what I have been finding when I have researched this topic. I backed down from talking about this for a while because there were a lot of other people saying, no, that is not the case. However, I'm going back to my initial research and I'm going to stand by it now. And that's what happens sometimes when you second guess yourself. Because I think people are getting confused. Like the GPS system that is part of a feature, like when you go out car shopping, you might be looking for the GPS navigation system that you're going to be looking at, that you can punch an address into when you're going from, here to summer vacation spot that you've never been to before. So you go the right way. With the inner workings, the navigation system that is part of the computer in the car's engine, I referred to in quotes is the black box because I just think it conveys the message better that way. And I don't know if that's what they call it or not. I've heard it called that before. This is not my wheelhouse. I think people were getting those two things confused, but I'm standing by my initial research, and it's what this expert is saying at least, that all the way back to 2011, Hyundai Elantras, all of them, did in fact have that black box, so to speak, computer in the engine that will yield all of that, what we call telemetry data, a la the Alec Murdaugh case. That's a super important point, guys. Like, we got to wrap our heads around that. That could be like mic drop, case closed. And this is why I believe the defense put forth Bryan Kohberger's alibi at the time that they did, and the alibi is what it is. They got their, wrapped their minds around this, and they were like, oh shit, what are we going to do about that? Because this telemetry data is going to show his every driving movement and decision on that night into the early morning hours, and hello, we're screwed.
Why do I care?
Now, I'm going to let Mr. Reber answer that question in just a moment, but first I want to make a distinction between the navigation system that Nancy Grace is referring to here and a GPS or navigation system that is a feature on a car that you might look for when you are in the market for buying a new car and you're looking for one that lists, oh, great, it has a GPS system so I can find where I'm going. If you were to look up Hyundai Elantra 2015 navigation system, because that was the year, make, and model of Bryan Kohberger's car, you're going to find an answer like this. So it says, does the Hyundai Elantra 2015 have a GPS? And the answer is, the 2015 Hyundai Elantra did indeed come with GPS, but only as part of the upgraded infotainment package. This package added a 7-inch touchscreen to the center dash, which includes Bluetooth functionality as well as a navigation and GPS capabilities. Unfortunately, this was not offered as a standard equipment at any trim level. It needed to be added when the vehicle was purchased new. So that, of course, means if Bryan Kohberger was driving a 2015 Hyundai Elantra that did not have that upgraded system, then it wouldn't have this GPS navigation system in it. So one who read one of these articles that I just researched would say, no, that is wrong. Bryan Kohberger's car did not have the navigation in it. Nancy Grace, once again, Nancy, you are wrong. This was a little bit confusing to me because I'm not really a car person. So when I was looking into this and I asked a few people who know what they're talking about, I was able to find a clear distinction between what this GPS navigation system is part of a feature on a car, and the navigation system that is a computer in the engine that Nancy Grace is talking about.
Yes, Angel D, exactly what you're saying. And our boy from 2015 right here is going to tell us all about it.
So I want you to watch a little excerpt of this video here from 2015. So the gentleman that is talking is a vehicle expert, and this video again is from the year 2015. So he is talking from a perspective of, well, the capabilities that cars had in 2015. In this video, he talks about the navigation system, as Nancy Grace calls it, or the computer in the engine, that is apparently the computer that all Hyundai Elantras did have in them after 2011.
Your car has lots of different computers. You're going to have one in your dashboard, but the one that I'm talking about is the one controlling your engine. That's called an engine control unit. And you can access the data coming from the engine control unit computer by a port in your car. It's usually just located underneath the dash. Now, most computers in cars today have GPS in them, but access to that data is usually limited to the vendor itself. It's not something that's covered as part of the OBD specification that most people can access. The type of data you can get from the engine control unit off the OBD port is just about everything you might, even like compression levels, oxygen levels. But generally speaking, most of the stuff you'll see in your dashboard, things like the fuel, how much fuel you've got, the speed of your car, the revolutions per minute of the engine temperature, the intake temperature as well, all kinds of data about the car's engine and how it's operating. You're able to see what was going on when the driver hit the brake, where they were when they hit the brake, what angle they were, what was going on with the car, how hard they were pressing on the brake, things like that you can actually get from the engine control unit.
So one of the questions we all want to know is there a witness we all don't know about yet?
I would say there's a witness. The witness is the nav system.
So let's go back and listen to what the
There you go. The witness is a nav system. So in addition to Dylan Morrison, to the degree that she is a witness, we have also learned, and I firmly believe this from the people I've talked to at the University of Idaho, who they know what they're talking about. There is another witness who heard and saw things, and yet there is at least a third witness that had eyes, ears, and really sharp mind, and that is the navigation system, a la the computer in the engine that we've been talking about here. I think that was a good little soundbite that he said there. There is another witness. It's a nav system.
That Nancy Grace had on her show just the other day had to say about the navigation system, the computer that Bryan Kohberger's 2015 Hyundai Elantra has in his car, and the information it will yield, and some other really interesting facts.
Lee Reber, you gave me a very interesting and probative, in other words, it proves something, fact. You stated that you knew for a fact the 2000 Elantra, all the way back to 2011 has the nav system, navigation system. Why do I care?
Yeah, I think it's important because we all have, or if you've utilized a navigational system within a car, right? You put a starting point and end point. However, if you don't do that, you ever watched your car just driving along, you haven't put anything in there. Well, it's actually tracking that. It actually can show where you've stopped. It has the computer that's within those cars can show the speed that you've been traveling. So to be honest, if he doesn't even have his phone, right? Supposedly, he turned his phone off, which is again quite odd. But now you're not able to go and turn that off within the tracking system within the vehicle. So I think it's incredible evidence if they have pulled that data from those vehicles.
It's absolutely mind-blowing evidence as far as, possibly being the linchpin in this case. And we cannot underestimate that. And if it is exactly like I'm saying it is, and this expert is saying it is, and a couple other experts here and there, and I don't know why it's not talked about more, are saying it is, that there is all that telemetry data that has been stored in Bryan Kohberger's 2015 Hyundai Elantra. It is going to be a linchpin of this case. It has to. This was one of Nancy Grace, my love-hate relationship, mostly love with Nancy Grace. She kept like undermining the points that this expert was making. She was really excited about talking about the information that we recently learned about the expanded, search warrants and the Amazon searches and all the different clicks that Kohberger was making. I don't know. She was really excited about that. This night she kind of kept brushing him off. But this is such a huge point. And again, this, in my opinion, is why Bryan Kohberger's alibi came out at the time that it did, after they had some kind of understanding of what Bethany Funke was going to bring forth at the trial as far as her testimony. Because again, I am telling you, I believe that is the biggest wild card of this case from beginning to end. Always has been, always will be. They knew that they had to somehow explain that telemetry data that, hopefully, that Bryan Kohberger's defense attorneys watched some of Alex Murdaugh's recent trial, and they were probably like, oh shit, when they were going line by line through that telemetry data, knowing that they're going to face the same thing. Pretty scary if you're Bryan Kohberger's defense attorney, I'm sure. Knowing that this is a death penalty case and the man's life is on the line. Ashley Turner said something I wanted to talk about. And so did Muck Boys. Ashley says, and hi Ashley, how are you doing? Just can't get my head around in his profession and studies, and he did not know to do all of the things that he ended up doing to get caught. And I know that has, of course, been something that has been widely discussed and widely thought about, and on first blush seems pretty stunning, right? But I've been really giving this like a whole lot of thought, because I have been, just kind of considering how big is the fact that Bryan Kohberger was pursuing his PhD in criminology. Yet there was this crime that was committed where all of these sloppy mistakes were left behind or were made by the perpetrator or perpetrators. He is innocent until proven guilty, although I think many of you know where my beliefs lie at this point, based on where the evidence points us. I think in a way, studying something academically could almost work against you, as far as, if you're somebody who's going to commit a crime and you don't want to make mistakes because you're studying certain things, in criminology. I remember, hearing on, what was it, JB Bruno, WFLA Live, shortly after the PCA came out. Somebody on that show had interviewed some of Bryan Kohberger's peers, and they were talking about what the criminology program, the same one that he was going through, was like, and what the content was, kind of a little basic overview of the syllabus, so to speak. And you're learning about, why police make decisions the way that they do, why there are the checks and balances in our law enforcement versus judicial system, why there is a separation of powers, why different, oh my gosh, can't think of it. Different levels of government, what do we call this? I say it all the time. Jurisdictions will have the authority over certain parts of laws, how this all comes together. So if you're studying that as a matter of your PhD pursuit, it almost might make you a little narrow-minded as to think, okay, well, this is what they're going to be going for, because this is what I have been learning about over the past few years. And this is a theme that is repeated time and time again in my criminology studies. That does not mean that the Moscow Police Department or this part of the FBI or this part of the Idaho State Police that is working on this case is going to use those same procedures and tactics and law enforcement methods that Kohberger might have been kind of zeroed in on. Does that make sense? A little bit more of a specific question here, specific point I want to respond to. Muckboy says, wasn't there like 90 white Hyundai Elantras in Moscow? Well, and I know I was able to get some statistics as far as the white Hyundai Elantras at the Washington State University. because those numbers at first seem staggering, right? I think we had this number of like 22,000 in the region. We weren't sure what the region ever meant, but when you start to narrow it down, there was 90 was the number that I came up with. It was like plus or minus 2 in the Washington State University area. And I have this data somewhere. I'll try to bring it up because I think it would be interesting at this point, especially to look at it closely. But when you looked at the number of white Hyundai Elantras that were registered to either Idaho or Washington State, which would mean that they would have a front and back license plate, it was 88. Well, with a margin of error, it was 86 to 89% of that 90. So let me just do that calculation real quick. 90 times 0.8, hit it in the middle, 7. So that means there would be 12 white Hyundai Elantras in that area that could possibly be the suspects by virtue of them knowing that there was no front license plate. For states, as y'all know, if you live in a state where it is a law that you have a front license plate and a back license plate, you don't get very far down the street without those sirens and lights behind you if you don't have both plates. It's a, for those of you that don't live in the States, it is a law that is, it is enforced without question. It's, something easy for cops to pick out. They say the whole idea of cops doing, kind of routine traffic stops for infractions that aren't, like huge infractions is for them to get to speak with the public, because you don't know if the person who is driving that car may be someone who has a warrant out for their arrest, who has committed a more egregious crime, until you have an opportunity to talk to them. So that's one of the, basic premises of law enforcement, as far as I understand it from talking to law enforcement folks. At least here in the States in our judicial system. I digress a little bit, but I think these are all important points. Yeah, so Angel D says, good point. Yeah, Washington State University isn't going to have access to FBI level teaching, or they are not going to know all of the ins and outs and tactics that, a trained FBI veteran is knowledgeable of, right? So, Fluffy Muppet says, I think the Spone King are cops being overrun by tweakers. I don't see them doing too many traffic stops. That could be the case, because sometimes, police departments do have bigger problems to deal with. I lived in Philadelphia for 20 years. When I moved back here to upstate New York, I got pulled over for ridiculous things a few times. I was like, man, in Philadelphia, the police department has like has big fish to fry regularly, and they are of course undermanned. You never get pulled over for that kind of thing, because there's a lot more crime happening, right? Hi, honey bun, it's all good. I'm so glad you're here. Colleen says, such a stupid law not to have a front plate. So many crimes committed here in Cleveland, Ohio, they get away because no front plate. Well, yep, back to living in Philadelphia, that was a big complaint by law enforcement, at least in part, that you basically have to double up your security camera power to catch, let's just say, every drug dealer who drives away. That person got in their car, they just did a deal. You don't get their plate because you didn't need a front plate in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania, where Kohberger is from. I thought it was the weirdest thing when I moved there. Super weird. Thank you, Bell Moon. All states surrounding Idaho require a front and rear license plate. Thank you. Thank you. That's a super important point. Thank you for making it. I appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. You know what? I'm going to go back to finish this conversation they were having up. It's only like 3 minutes.
Accused of being a mass murderer in the middle of the night, I would think I'd have a better story if I was factually innocent.
But not if you needed.
Do you agree or disagree with me?
He's like, give me a response, girl. But Vinny Politano, not if you have to account for all of that robust telemetry data that we are going to be viewing about Bryan Kohberger's car's mechanisms during the trial. I guarantee it. Got to think a little more, Vinny.
I agree with you, but I'm still stuck on the anonymous aunt that wants to be distant but has so much to say. It's like, pick a lane. Either you want to distance yourself from the case, you don't have anything to offer, or you have all of this stuff to say about his childhood, him being depressed. You don't know why he's depressed, but his childhood was great. Like, are you distancing yourself, or do you have something to say? I feel like you need to pick a lane if you're going to be a family member. Either you're going to offer something or you're going to distance yourself. You can't do both. In terms of them offering an alibi that only he can attest to, that would be a tragic defense. That would not be a good idea. I think their motion to dismiss, like Bernarda said, is going to go forward and say, listen, they don't have enough evidence to tie him to this place and time. And that's fine. The defense, as I always say, the defense is going to defend.
Yeah. They have to, and that's the way our system works. But Bernardo, what do you think they'll say about his DNA being on the knife sheath?
So, Vinny, I think that they're going to challenge the DNA. It may be a battle of the experts where they bring an expert in to say that it wasn't reliable. So either they go that route, or they're going to say that it's something about the collection of that sheath and how that DNA was allegedly collected wasn't in the proper protocol, or even say that possibly law enforcement planted it, but it doesn't work with the timeline because he wasn't a suspect until long after.
Here we are on YouTube. So we're already ahead of Honey Girl here. So I'm going to move on from that. But, I saw this just as I was getting online here, and this is a serious topic and a trigger alert. And I'm very sorry to say this, but and Mr. G. Brooks, and thank you for letting us know about this, says active shooter in Maine, 22 or more dead, 60 or more injured, and the shooter is still at large. So, if you are anywhere in Maine, I don't know exactly where this is. I know this was news that was kind of breaking just before I got on. Or if you have any loved ones in Maine, you might want to look into the specifics of where that is, where they are, and everyone, please do be safe. And that's horrible. I'm sorry to have to announce that news. So, yeah. Okay, so Laura says, in Florida, they just have a back plate. And Laura is from Chicago, where they have the front and back plate. Yeah. So I just always wonder why states don't, across the board, require a front and back license plate. All cars that make it here to the United States are fashioned to sport a front and back license plate, no doubt. Okay. So DC Primetime says, watch the obsession. What do you mean by telemetry data? I saw this on CTV and I don't understand. Sorry, I've been so lately. So it's all of the data. And again, I was referring to the Murdaugh case. It's all of the data that they presented, for example, in the Murdaugh case that shows when the car shifted, when the car stopped, how long was the car idling for. It attaches a time stamp to literally every manual movement that is made by the operator of the car and everything that happens in the engine that will cause the vehicle to run the way it does or to change the way that it's running. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right. All right. So this is just from today. This is from Law and Crime from just 2 hours ago.
Mr. Kohberger, do you understand the charge in count 1? Yes.
A hearing in Bryan Kohberger's case this week is shrouded in secrecy as his legal team asks the judge to throw out the indictment, charging him with the murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
I would say this is more than, a really big hill for them to climb. This is like Mount Everest they're trying to climb here.
Thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy. Bryan Kohberger's lawyers have filed 2 motions asking Judge John Judge to either dismiss the indictment against him or to send the case back to a lower court for a preliminary hearing. In a preliminary hearing, a prosecutor calls witnesses. detectives or crime lab analysts or even eyewitnesses to show a judge there's probable cause that a defendant committed a crime. Defense attorneys like preliminary hearings because they get to cross-examine witnesses before trial, and sometimes they learn information that can help the defense. That didn't happen in this case. Instead, the Latah County prosecutor chose to present the case to a grand jury, which is done behind closed doors without Kohberger or his lawyer present.
I knew from the get-go that this was almost assuredly going to be a case that was brought before the grand jury.
Edwina Elcox is a criminal defense attorney in Idaho who's following Kohberger's case. She explained why it wasn't surprising that a grand jury was impaneled.
You have a large amount of media speculation and public speculation about the case. You have the victims, families, and also the other roommates that were there and other potential witnesses in the case. And so I think to protect the integrity of the proceeding, the grand jury was almost assuredly the route the prosecution was going to take. Now, absolutely, do I understand why the defense would have preferred preliminary hearing route, right? You get a shot, you get the first shot at the state's witnesses and the evidence, and the state doesn't get to solely control that narrative. But I do not think that it is surprising at all that the prosecution elected to utilize the grand jury.
Kohberger claims the grand jury was biased and that the grand jury heard inadmissible evidence. Kohberger also claims the indictment should be dismissed or he should get a preliminary hearing because of prosecutorial misconduct.
I think if there's
Now, I personally feel the presentation of this law and crime, what they're doing here, is a little bit boring. And I'm sorry. I mean, it's really good informational. That's why I'm choosing to play it. But what she is talking about here, although personally, just for my, attention always moving around mine, it doesn't always capture my attention. I have to try really hard to listen to it. This is talking about exactly everything that the defense is doing right now is an effort to do exactly what she's explaining, to throw out the indictment, to have the charges dismissed, somehow, Hail Mary, by the grace of God, in my opinion. But, they are doing their job.
Area where there would be a solid or a theoretical solid challenge, it would be the impaneling of the grand jury, right? We have a very, very small community, a small county. And so obviously when you have a case of this magnitude with not only national attention, international attention, it would be very, very hard to seat a jury locally that had no preconceived notions or frankly hadn't heard about the case at all.
Kohberger did not enter a plea at his arraignment in May.
And
Kohberger is staying silent.
We talked about why that was, because they had not yet heard from Bethany Funke, who in my opinion is the wild card, always has been, always will be, of this case. And at this point, they did not know enough about what she was going to be testifying for them to dare to put forth an alibi. I think the alibi that they did put forth, as confusing as it is to some of us, is very, very telling. And every angle you look at it, every word of it was chosen for a specific reason that addresses a legal problem Ann Taylor and her team are facing.
I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge.
Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, said he stood silent to preserve his right to challenge the indictment. But the information the defense is using to support their claims is sealed. A hearing on that motion is closed to the public this Thursday, an incredibly rare occurrence in a criminal case. So what could possibly happen at that hearing?
I would imagine that there is going to be evidence presented, whether that is through documentary evidence, witnesses and live testimony, right? But when you have a motion of this nature, it's not something that the defense can just theorize about, right? And to make this argument and to ask the court to make the ruling to ultimately dismiss the indictment in this case, it can't be theoreticals and it can't be hypotheticals. I would imagine that the defense has to have some real concrete evidence to show this is what happened, judge, or these series of things are what happened. And this is why this indictment cannot stand. I mean, this in my mind is not a case this motion is not a situation where it can just be legal theory and argument. You're going to have to present to the judge some absolute concrete evidence, testimony, and otherwise to convince the judge there is something that occurred that warrants the dismissal that the defense is seeking in this case.
Police have cited circumstantial evidence, such as touch DNA and cell phone records, in making the case that Kohberger murdered students Kaylee Gonsalves, Maddie Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle nearly 1 year ago. Kohberger's second motion to dismiss the indictment claims prosecutors did not present enough evidence to grand jurors. They cite the Idaho Constitution that says the grand jury ought to find an indictment when all the evidence before them, taken together, if unexplained or uncontradicted, would, in their judgment, warrant a conviction by a trial jury. That's different from the probable cause standard currently used. Idaho attorney Tara Malik on that argument.
What the defense has been arguing here is that the same standard that's used at trial to convict someone, so beyond a reasonable doubt, should be used at the grand jury stage as well. Both in a preliminary hearing route, had the state gone that way, or in the grand jury proceeding, the standard has been under modern jurisprudence, this probable cause, more likely than not, 51% standard that a crime was committed and this individual is the one that committed the crime. And so for the defense to come in and argue now that we should throw all of that out, all of these courts who've interpreted this statute as it comes to the standard of proof are wrong, and we need to go back to, or we need to go to this high beyond a reasonable doubt burden, is not a novel argument, but one that has been pretty soundly rejected by the courts.
Is this a case of the defense literally doing everything they can to challenge this case? Because I mean, maybe the legislature needs to go back, or the voters of the state need to go back and amend this part of the Idaho Constitution. But it just seems to me this is not going to be an argument that flies, although I give them points for creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense is in a really tough spot with this case. What we know so far, and, admittedly, we haven't seen everything. We're not privy to the discovery that's gone back and forth between the state and the defense team here, but what we've seen and what we know so far presents a pretty compelling picture and a pretty compelling theory of the case the state has here against Bryan Kohberger. And so I'm sure that the defense is looking at every route and really holding the state to its standard of proof, as well as making sure that the state has followed all the rules that it needs to follow. But I would say this is more than, a really big hill for them to climb. This is like Mount Everest they're trying to climb here with this legal argument.
Bryan Kohberger remains in the Latah County Jail, where he's held without bail. Law and Crime will bring you the public portion of Thursday's motion hearing on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned.
Okay, so
For
again,
Law and Crime,
tomorrow on October 26th, there's going to be two components to what's going on in court with Bryan Kohberger. There's going to be a morning hearing that is not going to be, it's going to be closed. It's not going to be open to the public. It's not going to be open to cameras. I don't know, do we get transcripts? Hopefully, because I think it's really weird at this point in the game. And then there's going to be an afternoon hearing that is going to be open to media. And so, there will be lots to talk about there. Oh gosh, McJ says, an emergency warning's been issued in my area for bushfire. Got to go now before it's unsafe to drive. Please be safe. Could you email me when you get to your destination, please, to let me know that you're safe? And welcome to everybody who's coming in, who came in. I know that was a little bit dry, but again, it did cover the big issues that are at hand right now. So one I want to read. Okay. All right, well, here, share this, and then I'm going to be wrapping up soon. And again, Friday evening at 9:30 Eastern Time, we're going to be doing our kind of Halloween theme live stream, and I'm going to be sharing with you the insane paranormal, what I believe to be paranormal experiences I've had while working, when I was working intensely on the Watts case, and others have some things to share with you as well. I'm hoping to have a super special guest, but it's not a sealed deal yet, but I think it's going to be. And if anyone is wanting to share, you're welcome to. If you want to plans come up so I can feature you or just reserve the space, please email me at whatsappsession@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story. All right. So there we go. Change it out. Come on. Hi, Anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis, I was thinking I've got to email you back. I have some specific questions I want to answer that you asked, but I was telling these guys I'm going to be doing a moderator little get together sometime soon. So saw your name and thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Bryan Kohberger to appear at hearings to discuss dismissing grand jury indictment for Idaho murders. As we were just talking about, 2 hearings are set for Thursday. That's tomorrow. Here right now it's 10:52 p.m. in New York. After Kohberger and his attorneys filed a motion to dismiss the indictment, citing a biased grand jury and lack of evidence. You didn't miss anything. Will do, DC. Well, that's not cool. I don't want to keep doing this. Well, let me see what's on the other side of this ad. If not, I'll read. All right. Well, that's not what we're looking for, but go Eagles. For real. Oh my gosh. Oops. Let's see. Let me stop sharing that. I'm just going to pull up that article. I'm just going to read it to you. It doesn't need to be up on the screen. Probably can't see it anyway. All right. Bryan Kohberger was accused of murdering University of Idaho students last November. He'll be back in court this week, and that's going to be tomorrow for 2 hearings to dismiss his grand jury indictment. Well, that's what the defense is hoping for. The hearings were originally scheduled for last month, but were pushed to Thursday, October 26th. Again, that's tomorrow. The first hearing is at 9:30. It is sealed, and it's going to be closed to the public. The second hearing will be at 1 p.m. Let's see, what is that? Mountain time out there? And it will be open to the public. Both will address the motion filed by Kohberger and his attorneys to dismiss his grand jury indictment that occurred in May. According to the court documents, for the first hearing, Kohberger and his attorneys cited grounds of a biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence. So, one of the big questions is why is the morning proceeding sealed and the afternoon is not? What is going to go down? Is it going to be that cutting? Is it going to be that controversial? Is it going to be that finger pointing? Is it going to be that specific? We don't know. Hopefully we'll find out something. I don't have a ton of faith though. For the second hearing, it's going to be open to the public. The grounds, and it's talking about the grounds for dismissing the indictment include error in grand jury instructions. Because of this, the defense either wants the indictment thrown out or wants a preliminary hearing held in its place. And then the rest of that, we do know. Yeah, so that's that. And I think I'm going to wrap up for this evening. Hey, Double R. Oh, Watch the Obsession live stream's on. Pants are off. Woo! Oh, you are? Are you really a huge Eagles fan? My team. Just was in the house. And Anaphylaxis, just thank you for being here. I'm always grateful when you're here. So Muckboys poses a question. Don't you usually hear more from suspects? We were told he said, has anyone else been arrested? But that's it. Not a word. Not that I know of anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, we really haven't heard a word. I agree with you. It does seem a little spooky. Yeah. American Princess and let's see, Johanna Wake were talking about what I gathered was the fact that, Johanna was saying to somebody, like, oh, it's not bullying the surviving roommates, they're fighting for a man's life on trial here. And I definitely see that. I agree with that point. Says, I don't think that Ann Taylor would bully two surviving roommates. There are rules of professional conduct for lawyers. Absolutely, there are. Yes, you're totally right. Yeah. Yeah, what you guys were talking about was spot on. I was just kind of watching your little back and forth there. Yeah, so Bell Moon raises an important question. It's really hard to work out an answer that everyone's going to agree on, that's for sure. It says, if the town is small, what's the alternative for the grand jury being biased? Right. I mean, right. Jury's going to be biased. They never, went for a change of venue. We have this insane, super broad, super strict gag order that I think is supposed to be looking like it is mitigating some of the possible damage that I guess, just talk and maybe media attention would do to the potential jury pool. But as we have, discussed on this channel and across YouTube, and anyone who's really talking about what's been going on with this case, which is in part is nothing, as far as we know, because of that broad strict gag order, is it really defeating its own purpose? I don't know. It's a big question. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to peace out. It's so great to see you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. I missed you guys. I am back. I guess I wasn't gone, from doing videos and live streams that long. I think my last one was like a week ago. It feels like a really long time though. Miss you guys so much. Thank you, moderators. You are the best. Members, subscribers. If you're new here, welcome. So glad you're here. Maybe you just want to click subscribe. Check us out again. We're glad you're here. And I certainly hope that you want to come back. So, hey, Truth and Translucent, how's it going? I just want to see what you had to say. When the PCA came out, we were all shocked how strong it seemed. I think the grand jury could have been duped in the same way. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's totally possible. I'm very interested to see what we learn about the proceedings that go down tomorrow for sure. Hey, Miss Matt, how are you doing? Thanks for being here. So again, I know definitely Friday evening at 9:30 Eastern time, we're going to be doing the sort of the something Chris Watts, the paranormal events that happened to me while I was researching that case. Others are sharing their stories too. It's going to kind of be themed like that. Hopefully I'm going to have a really awesome, like, special surprise guest. And yeah, I just thank you so much for being here. And everybody, please, we pray for the victims of that mass shooting, apparently in Maine. Apparently, from what I understand, just from the person that came in here and mentioned it, and if my facts are wrong, I'm sorry, that there's 22 more dead, 60 or more injured. We pray for those victims and their families, and that they apprehend that person. And it's a tough world, and that's just so sad. Everyone, please, please, please be safe. And Life is hard. Take good care of yourselves because I promise you, you deserve it. And I hope to see you here again really soon. All right. On this channel, we pray for justice for the victims, and we hope to do more than that and a greater peace for their families. That's what it's all about. So hope to see you guys on Friday evening. And thank you so much, everybody, again, for being here and for being part of the community. And Jody, you're so funny. You're like, no, I have to keep cleaning. I know I feel that way sometimes too when I'm watching something good and getting a cleaning groove. And Double R, Double R is a really great artist. He has some paintings that some of you might be interested in. So we're looking at showcasing those for him on the channel. So Double R, are you on email right now? Let's talk about that because I really would like to help you with that. So, okay, everybody, please be safe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be on the replay crew also. And please take care of yourself. You deserve it. Be safe. And I hope to see you Friday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.